On the 3rd of May, so 2 days ago, two small drones flew over Moscow and they flew straight into Kremlin and bada boom, they exploded on top of one of the buildings. Western and Russian media has been eating this up. Nobody knows what to think of this, what to make of this. In this video, we'll open it up and see which side this action benefits the most, so which side might be motivated to claim responsibility for this. If anyone tells you they know which side did it, they are lying. Nobody has claimed this attack. There is no clear narrative who did it. By now there are three options. Either the Ukrainians did it, either the Russians did it, or some hobbyists, partisan movements did it. I'll start with the Ukrainian side. I don't think Ukrainians did it. Why? Well, first of all, because Zelensky straight out came out on camera and said that they didn't do it. He denied it verbally on camera. I have no problem believing him. Secondly, Ukraine wouldn't need it because they already have the initiative in the information war, and this action here would give a lot of the initiative to the Russian side because they could spin it however they want. They could frame the Ukrainians saying that, oh, this was a terrorist attack. Or what they're doing right now is framing this as an assassination attack against Putin. So Ukrainians are not really gaining from this attack on the information war battlegrounds. Yes, they are using it for their benefit, but they don't need it. They already have the initiative. I don't think the Russians did it. Why is that? Because when this attack happened, Russian side was quiet. For 12 hours they were quiet, and then suddenly, boom, they started to blame the Ukrainians and they started to push the narrative that this was an assassination attack against Putin done by the Ukrainians. Usually if Russians or FSB or Rosgvardia do any false flag operations, they're immediately ready to push the narrative when the attack happens. There wouldn't be this 12-hour break. The pause was too big. Russian narrative that they're pushing right now are extremely chaotic also, like they don't know what to make of this. Also, this attack strongly discredits the Russian army and their capability to defend the Kremlin, so Russians wouldn't gain from it, they lose from it more. So I don't think the Russians did it. What I think the most likely scenario is that it's a hobbyist or a drone company not connected directly to both militaries. Because, let's remember, Ukrainian businessman Volodymyr Yatsenko has promised 500,000 United States dollars to any drone hobbyist or drone company who manages to fly a Ukrainian drone into Moscow 9th of May. It might be a test flight, it might be a Russian partisan or Ukrainian partisan movement in Russia, or it might be one of the competitors taking part in this competition trying to get $500,000. The hobbyist, amateur or partisan movement is the most likely scenario because both sides, Ukraine and Russia, would not be gaining from this attack for me to understand that they would do it. After this attack, Russian authorities have banned the use of anti-air missiles over Moscow 9th of May against Ukrainian drones. They only allow the usage of electronic warfare weaponry, you know, drone guns, jamming instruments, stuff like that. Because if you shoot down even a small drone over Moscow with an anti-air missile, the kaboom is pretty big. Even if the drone is small, the explosion and the falling debris might hurt people because 9th of May is a very densely populated time in Moscow. Somebody will get hurt. This is why all anti-air missile usage against drones is forbidden. They're trying to use also lasers and all kinds of electronic warfare instruments. 9th of May will be interesting in Moscow. Cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. I'm not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your crazy neighbor. I'm talking about my sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong, so instead of drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all natural delicious flavors. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. I've said it many times before, I love the way it feels in my hand, metal and wood. I love to play around with it. Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the journey pack today. Head to tryfume.com/Estonian or scan the QR code and use the code Estonian to get 10% off when you get the journey pack today. That's tryfum.com and use the code Estonian to save additional 10% off your order today. He's back. Who's back? Prigozhin, of course. The clown is back. And now with some serious words. In my last video I called it that if Prigozhin pulls Wagner out of Bakhmut, this will be an open rebellion against Putin. He's back now to confirm his intentions. Let's watch the video.
Я обращаюсь от себя лично, от Совета командиров ЧВК «Вагнер», от бойцов ЧВК «Вагнер». Обращаюсь к НГШ, министру обороны, Верховному главнокомандующему и народу России. 16 марта, когда СВО пошло не по плану, нас попросили помочь. 19 марта 22 года подразделения прибыли из Африки, полностью экипированные, сразу с колес вступили.
Yeah, Wagner is also pulling their troops from Africa. Wagner is in Africa in more than 4 countries, I think. They don't have a lot of personnel there, but 5,000+ definitely. And they're pulling these troops to fight in Ukraine, because in Bakhmut it's a meat grinder, they're losing their force big time. About 2 weeks ago we talked about how Wagner might be no more because they're just losing their capability to fight, because all of the men just KIA. That's happening. Prigozhin is as powerful is Wagner, and Wagner is losing power because all of the casualties, so Prigozhin might be done.
Мы вошли в самое тяжелое место, в центр укрепрайона Попасной, и к 9 мая 22 года овладели населенным пунктом. Затем, для того, чтобы спасти армию, которая бежала позорно из Изюма и Красного.
So again, he's playing the card that Wagner against the Russian armed forces, Wagner against Shoigu and Gerasimov. It is a very old conflict in this war. Very old, I mean, over a year old. He's playing the Wagner troops as the heroes who are saving this war, saving this battle, because the armed forces are failing. On his side are some far-right military bloggers and Kadyrov, and that's it. That's the allies Prigozhin has. Against them are Igor Kirkin, Gerasimov, Shoigu, and some other military bloggers.
Заняли линию фронта более 130 километров и сдержали натиск противника. А 8 октября 22 года, для того, чтобы дать армии передышку, для того, чтобы стянуть все силы на себя, жертвуя своими жизнями, начали операцию «Бахмутская мясорубка». В этой бахмутской мясорубке показали успех и хороший результат, от чего некоторых деятелей, околовоенных бюрократов из Минобороны задавила жлоба, по-русски говоря. И поэтому нас посадили на так называемый искусственный дефицит боеприпасов, снарядный голод, которые лежат свободно.
What I've heard, you know, the Prigozhin always blames the Ministry of Defense for not giving them artillery shells, and that's why Wagnerites are dying, according to Prigozhin. But what I hear is that the Russian Ministry of Defense is giving artillery shells freely for everybody equally. But since Wagner is very aggressive in their offensive operations, because they had the prisoners and because, you know, Prigozhin just doesn't care about his casualties, they need more. And so he's getting as much as everybody else, and this doesn't satisfy his need for the artillery shells. There are documents showing that the Ministry of Defense has signed the giving of artillery shells to Wagner PMC very recently, with the same amount that everybody else gets, every other unit in the Russian armed forces.
На складах мы получали не более 30% от потребностей. Поэтому наши потери были значительно выше, чем должны были быть, но мы шли вперед. Месяц назад нам прекратили выдавать боеприпасы и мы получаем не более...
Well, yes, they receive 10% of their need, so does every other Russian unit 10% of their need of artillery shells. And before it was 30, because Russia as a country cannot produce anymore. They just don't have the capacity to produce because all of the artillery shell factories are working in 3 shifts. There are no pauses, no breaks. If one shift goes, another one comes in, the factory doesn't stop. So right now you can say Russia is producing as many artillery shells as possible. If they want to produce more, they have to build more factories. There's no downtime in factories. And if that is only giving Prigozhin 10% and other units 10%, then the true fact is that Russia is just spending a lot more, 90% more ammunition that they can produce. And this seems a very believable truth to me, knowing how much they shoot, how randomly they shoot. They don't have precision weapons like Ukraine does, Western artillery. They truly use it like an area weapon. They just bombard an entire area, and then they don't really count their shells. Well, they should have. Now they're all gone.
Мы собирались к 9 мая 23 года овладеть населенным пунктом Бахмут. Но увидев это, околовоенные бюрократы с 1 мая фактически прекратили любые поставки, чтобы не дать нам это сделать.
I have to open this up. From 1st of May, Prigozhin claims the Russian Minister of Defense don't want them to capture Bakhmut. Bakhmut is the oldest battle in this war, right? Whoever captured this city is the hero in the Russian military, in the Russian people who follow this war. So if Prigozhin captures it with Wagner, this will discredit Gerasimov and Shoigu and the Russian armed forces. If the Russian armed forces capture it, this will discredit Prigozhin and Wagner. So both of these entities want to capture Bakhmut, and only 15% of the city is left to be captured. So Wagner is close. Of course, the Russian Minister of Defense is doing everything to slow them down because they need the credit. Because their social credit is very low right now in Russia, because they're failing everywhere almost. Both of these entities need the capture of Bakhmut to save their faces.
Потому что они сидят, трясут жирными животами и думают, что они войдут в историю победителями. Они уже в нее вошли трусами. Я сообщаю официально министру обороны НГШ, Верховному главнокомандующему, нести без боеприпасов потери в Бахмуте, бесполезные и неоправданные.
Again, I will open up another information war side of it. This also might be just Prigozhin playing on camera because he doesn't really care about his men. And now he's surrounded by his men, making it look like he cares. So all of these dudes behind him who are complaining to him that, oh, we don't want to fight like that. Prigozhin does this stunt on camera, and the men and the leaders of Wagner get the feeling that our boss cares about us. In reality, he doesn't. He just sends them to die anyway. This is just an information operation to his own troops to feel like Prigozhin cares about them and to stop complaining and to keep fighting, to keep the morale up, you know. This is another option because Prigozhin is known not to care at all about his losses. Why should he care now?
Мои парни не будут. Поэтому с 10 мая 23 года мы выходим из населенного пункта Бахмут. Нам осталось взять 2 с небольшим километра из 45. Но если по причине вашей мелкой зависти вы не хотите подарить победу россиянам по взятию Бахмута, это ваши проблемы.
So what he claims is they will take Bakhmut 2 more kilometers and then they will pull out. The thing is, he cannot do this unless the Russian Minister of Defense, which also means Putin, gives the order. Because if he pulls out without the order of Putin, this will be an open rebellion against Putin. He is Putin's dog. This is the reality. He's not a self-thinking identity. He doesn't have the right to make decisions on his own. If Putin says you will remain in Bakhmut, this is what he does, or he will be flying out of the window. Time will tell if Putin gives that order. Maybe the order has already been given and he's just playing it up on camera that they made the decision. Maybe Putin made the decision. We don't know. Putin might have made the decision that Wagner will pull out and the Russian Ministry of Defense will just take over their positions, and Prigozhin is playing that like they are making the decision. You never know the internal playings of this politics. Everything is possible here. But what I'm telling you is that he is not calling the shots.
Поэтому я прошу НГШ подписать боевое распоряжение. В наш адрес не было написано ни одной бумаги за всю войну, потому что руководство трусит брать на себя ответственность как при наступлении, так и при выходе. Поэтому мы ждем боевое распоряжение на выход из Бахмута. До 9 числа, несмотря на то, что боеприпасы у нас практически закончились, мы останемся в Бахмуте, чтобы этот священный праздник для всего народа России.
Okay, it truly feels to me that if he's making such bold claims to be pulling out of Bakhmut on 10th of May, I think the order came from up. I think Putin has let him know that he can pull out or he must pull out because the Russian Minister of Defense will fill the void Wagner leaves.
И не посрамить блеск русского оружия. А затем мы выйдем в тыловые лагеря после 400 дней ежедневной тяжелой работы.
It really seems like it.
И в этих тыловых лагерях будем ждать, когда мы снова потребуемся народу России. Думаю, что это произойдет уже вот-вот. Потому что вы не в состоянии управлять тем, на что вас поставили. Мое официальное заявление увидите официально на пресс-службе.
What it might be is just Putin's orders to get ready to defend, because everybody knows Ukrainian counteroffensive is coming and it will be powerful and punchy. So they want to take Bakhmut by 9th of May and then they will be just rotated out like militaries do. They rotate out their troops. Prigozhin will be just rotated with Wagner to the rear to defend against the counteroffensive, and he plays it as his decision in this huge war against Russian Minister of Defense. Actually, it's just following orders. You never know what to believe in Russia. There's another video that came out from Prigozhin. The guy filmed him and he was in front of like 30 to 40 KIAs from Wagner. It wasn't coffins, it wasn't burial grounds, it was, you can see them. I cannot really describe it. It was very graphic, I cannot show it. But in this video he was very out of his element. He was not drunk and rambling, he was screaming, angry and screaming and totally losing himself, accusing the Ministry of Defense for not giving them ammunition, accusing the Ministry of Defense for the death of these guys behind him. So this conflict, whether real or not, Prigozhin is really playing it up. But I can show you another audio recording of him which talks about the same thing, but just not so graphic.
Сегодня, 2 мая, подразделения ЧВК «Вагнер» продвинулись в населенном пункте Бахмут до 160 метров в различных направлениях. Под контролем противника находится 2,7 с копейками километра квадратного. Мы захватили 53 тысячи квадратных метров. Наши потери составили 103 человека. Их должно было быть в разы меньше, если бы не снарядный голод. Боеприпасы нам по-прежнему не дают в необходимых количествах.
So the capture of 160 meters in one day resulted in the death of 103 people, 103 KIA. So that is incredibly high casualties, and this has been the casualties for Wagner and Russian Ministry of Defense in Bakhmut in general. This has been the case for months, for actually a whole year. But now he talks about it as if this is the problem because Ministry of Defense doesn't give them ammunition. Well, a year ago when they got all the ammunition they wanted, the casualties were still the same. So he's just using this information to play up the conflict he has with the Ministry of Defense. We don't know why. Something big is coming between those two entities, otherwise Prigozhin wouldn't play it up like that. In the Russian army, the Colonel General Mizintsev, known as the Butcher of Mariupol, you know, this guy is responsible for bombarding Mariupol to the ground, responsible for up to 10,000 civilian KIAs in Mariupol. The city is closed and under occupation, we don't know. But on the satellite images you can see the expansion of the graveyards over the time. If you just use the math and calculate how many graves it fits, 10,000 plus. This is the guy here, and he was recently fired or released from his position in the Russian Ministry of Defense in the Russian army, so he joined Wagner. What else can he do? Let's watch the video. That means Prigozhin is buying allies. Everyone who is leaving the Russian Ministry of Defense or fired from there, he immediately offers the positions to them to get more allies and more power. And all of this power struggle will come to a conclusion, I think, after the counteroffensive, because the results of it shows if things will go sour in Russia. If the counteroffensive is very successful, taking back a lot of ground, in Russia, people are going to point fingers. Then who has more allies has more power. Prigozhin is getting ready for that. That's the guy who bombarded Mariupol to the ground.
Вот. Мы все полностью свои тактические приемы отрабатываем мгновенно. Вчера у нас был бой, сегодня мы уже этот бой разобрали полностью.
This is all a joke, because yesterday we had a fight, today we already have completely analyzed the fight to the smallest detail. This is just a stunt to the people, stunt to the camera, because you can see how the Russians fight. They don't analyze anything. They just send wave after wave to die. If the last wave went, send in the new one. Don't think, don't analyze. That's the opposite of what they say here. They don't think, they don't analyze. But you can see it's a show conversation for the people.
До мельчайших деталей, и уже сейчас мы начинаем готовить людей согласно того, что у нас было.
Хорошо, бой один на одном направлении, бой на другом направлении, они отличаются друг от друга. Насколько обобщается это для того, чтобы к любому развитию обстановки готов был бы обучаемый?
Я понял вопрос. Значит, наша главная задача, этот прием тактический, который мы разрабатываем, его сделать универсальным.
They're just talking generally about, like, you can see it's so staged. It's just, let's film something that they can see that we are discussing, you know, we're discussing why things are going wrong and analyzing it. I mean, nothing of this kind really happens in the Russian army or in Wagner. They just have the political order, which is blind, not connected to the reality on the ground, and they just follow it blindly.
Применимо ко всем видам боя. То есть мы
вы выбираете наиболее эффективный.
Да,
эффективный.
совершенно верно.
Там, где командир одержал победу, успех, вы его как пример разбираете и на этом примере обучаете.
Но мы также еще разбираем то, где у нас были какие-то ошибки. То есть был, например, прорыв противника. Вот, мы этот прорыв ликвидировали, и мы сразу разбираем успехи и ошибки противника, и сразу разбираем успехи и ошибки своих подразделений. Вот, и на данном этапе мы полностью все эти ошибки пытаемся устранить и сделать нашу тактику более универсальной, приемлемой.
This is the Ilsky oil refinery in Russia, Krasnodar Krai, Krasnodar region. It is hundreds and hundreds of kilometers from the front line, and Ukraine attacked this oil refinery with drones for the second time in 2 days. It's in flames, destroyed. Ukraine is attacking targets like this in Russia, especially oil refineries, every day. And I couldn't report them because they get very repetitive. But especially in the last week, Ukraine hasn't stopped. I mean, Russia seems to be completely unable to defend their strategic locations near Ukraine, 500 kilometers near Ukraine. Drones just fly in and there's a boom, and then Russians try to put out the fire. And then next day it all happens again in another place. What the Russians are trying to do, at least in Moscow, is after the attack on Kremlin, you know, with the drone, they're jamming the GPS signals in Moscow. But this results in all of the GPS signals jammed. So civilians using GPS, taxi services, as you can see in this photo, for example, it's all screwed up. It's a real hindrance. And this is supposed to go on until 15th of May. So if you're a taxi company in Moscow, you're screwed. Cannot really use your GPS, you gotta go memorized. My friends, thank you so much for watching these videos. If you like my style, subscribe to the channel and also become a patron. It's the fastest and most efficient way to support the channel. I also made a Twitter account, link is in the description below. 3 times a day you hear the most important news about this war against Ukraine in the Twitter account. Until my next video, Slava Ukraini.